This is the November 2014 issue of Men's Journal on newsstands as of today, October 18th, 2014. And the Wolf of Weed Street and I have a feature article right here. It's called The Wolf of Weed Street. So I PDF our article, and it's basically, buying high, betting big on pot stocks with the Wolf of Weed Street. So you can read the whole article. Hopefully it'll be online soon. Here's a picture. We did a 4-hour photo shoot. This is me. This is the Wolf of Weed Street. They didn't use 99.9% of the photos. I brought my Lambo. He brought his Lexus. It was hilarious because the photographer was like, "How am I going to make this Lexus look cool? You got your Lambo." But anyways, they used this picture. And the whole first part of the article is talking about how the reporter is following the Wolf of Weed Street and they make some money. But I'm not even going to get into that because it's, just how every pump goes up, and it's not necessarily a good thing, especially when you're ignorant and you don't know why these stocks are going up. And so the whole first part is how the author made some money trading these stocks. And then the second part of the article is talking about how these stocks really crash, and they blame me. The pack was snarling now and needed someone to blame, not the wolf, of course, but someone. They found him in the person of Timothy Sykes, perhaps the most famous penny stock trader in the country, an obnoxious loudmouth whose DVD and chat room ads blared stuff like, "Learn how I turned 12,415 into $4,050, and how I created 4 millionaires," next to pictures of him standing smugly beside his Lamborghini, or showing off his Rolex, or beaching it in some exotic locale with his model girlfriend. Sykes specializes in short selling, betting that a certain stock will drop in value, something that will typically happen if lots of other short sellers pile on. Recently, Sykes had begun railing against some of the Wolf's picks, calling the companies worthless junk. After that, the Wolf Pack concluded that Sykes had coordinated short attacks on the pot stocks and that he was the one who was responsible for their current unhappiness. "Douchebag is all you are, bro," one tweeted. "The Wolf Pack is looking out for disabled veterans. What are you doing, Sykes? This benefits us. We buy more cheap shares, and he gets to wipe his tears with our spongy wolf cocks." Very nice. And then the author is like, "Only I was beginning to have my doubts. What if Sykes was right?" And that's the truth. I didn't have any coordinated short selling attacks. There aren't even that many shares to short to knock these stocks. They were trading 50, 100 million shares a day. It's no different than all the other patterns in all of my DVDs. Whether I shorted, whether I alerted, I made 50 grand, call it roughly, shorting these pot stocks. Screwed up some of my trades. GRNH, that day that it was above $1, I had 120,000 shares short, and I made a few $1,000 covering like a wuss, and I finished the day at like 50 cents. I mean, messed up entirely. But the patterns were there, and I teach that, and I'm glad the reporter sees that. And so he talks about how the accounts are down. The Wolf says, "Look, for people who missed the run-up, this is still an entry. This is going to get better. Do you know how much new money is going to be pouring in? We need to hammer that home. I mean, after that happens, no one is going to know who Tim Sykes is. They're not even going to know who I am. Well, they'll probably know who I am, but you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to tweet that this is a buying opportunity. What do you guys think?" So he's talking with his other Wolfpack members, which so shady, so questionable. And they said, one of them said, "We have to put the message out there that when the fundamentals are good, price drops like this are temporary." The Wolf liked that idea. Yeah. When I see red, I see opportunity. Something like that. Another guy said, "By the way, did you know that there are like 40 people in the website's chat room right now, and every one of them is freaking out. They're all pissed. Everyone's fucking conking, and Tim Sykes is riding this like a donkey." And, the Wolf looked at me, the reporter, grinned, shrugged, and returned to the call. And so this is what really pisses me off. The next day over breakfast, he said, "At the peak of my account, I was at 640,000, but now I'm at 381,000, but I've taken out 5 times what I put in along the way, so now it's like monopoly money. I'm still buying more shares, though, because of my followers. I'm sticking with it for them. I'm like the Jesus of trading. I'm like letting myself get nailed to the cross just because I don't want them to suffer. I mean, I'm not really upset about losing all that money, which is shocking to me sometimes." He shrugged again, but then he got on the subject of Tim Sykes, and he wasn't so cavalier. "If I woke up next week and somebody had beat him within an inch of his life, I would not be surprised. He's playing a very dangerous game with other people's money. I don't wish Sykes ill, but he's putting a bullseye on his back. I've heard people say I want to find this guy and kill him." And this is what really pisses me off, because he says that he's buying these, pumps, for lack of a better word, as a favor to his community because he wants to lead them in the right way. And he's just a newbie. You'll go through this whole article and you'll see he doesn't even understand the ramifications of buying pumps when they're crashing, and he doesn't know that these pumps are, eventually all going to go to zero or close to it. And he says that I'm painting a bullseye on my back. He doesn't even realize that the bullseye is on his back and that I'm just using my over 15 years of market experience and seeing the same patterns again and again. This is what really angered me. And if you remember my social media fights with the Wolf of Weed Street and all his people, they're all like, rule number one, never sell, Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett buys blue chip companies like Goldman Sachs, that are at theoretically good values. And because they have such big business and good business, that if you buy them low, yeah, most likely they will, resume going up. And Goldman Sachs, great trade by Warren Buffett, who also, if you didn't know, used to trade penny stocks. But these marijuana penny stock investors and traders, they're buying the most speculative junk in the world, and they think that it's good. And it's sad. And, I wasn't trying to be mean. I was trying to get it through to their heads, and I'm glad I saved a few of them. People like Polis B, who I talked about in previous videos, he got up to $200,000 trading these penny stocks, and he lost 60, 70%, and then he listened to me, got out, thank God, because he still had 70, 80,000, and, everyone else just kept going down the tubes. Anyways, let me continue with this article. This is all just talking about how, more marijuana penny stocks. I'm not even going to focus on it because it's such gibberish. Listening to the words of a newbie, it's like trying to listen to a baby teach geometry. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense. And I think the reporter did a great job exposing that. So then it's a little flash forward where the reporter says, 2 months later, I'm back home in Rhode Island, still waiting for the bull market and pot stocks to resume. I'm deeply in the red. I can't bear to talk about my larger losses, but a glance at some of my smaller bets pretty much tells the story. The $680 I slung into vape holdings had been reduced to $37, which wouldn't cover a 30-minute visit with a half-baked Ocean State shrink. And my $406 in Indie Growers Association Inc. is down to $18.34, not even enough for a bottle of 100-proof Smirnoff to soak my head in. Meanwhile, I've been searching for a way to dig myself out. It's not that I've ever given up, it's not that I've given up on the wolf. It's more that the pot stock climate has changed, so maybe I should find someone else to follow. Someone like Tim Sykes, the wolf's nemesis and the great feared enemy of the wolf pack. This much I know about Sykes. He's a middle-class nerd from Connecticut who started playing with penny stocks when he was 17 with a bankroll of $12,415 in bar mitzvah money, turned that into $2 million in college, and made a career of trading stocks and hawking tutorial DVDs and trading chat room services. Last year, his online ventures earned him $4 million, far more than his trading, but he's no slouch as a trader either. He starts every year with $500,000 in his brokerage account. As of today, it stands at $1.2 million. Where the wolf is currently on a losing streak, Sykes continues to win. I drop in an email to introduce myself and my situation. The first thing he tells me is to sell everything weed-related. Pot stocks are a pump and dump. They have AIDS, and they do not have Magic Johnson money. That was a pretty good analogy. I understand some people are going to be like, Magic Johnson never had AIDS. He was only HIV positive. The point is made, okay? These companies are crap. All that other stuff is pretty true. He says that he wants to teach me how to trade his way with bona fide rules, like base your buys on good earnings reports instead of on bogus PR puffery taken at face value by guys like the Wolf, and never allow a loss to go deeper than 7%. He thinks the Wolf is either a slimy promoter working some kind of Twitter con or a know-nothing playing out of his depth. Either way, Sykes says the guy is dangerous. And that's what it comes down to. I still don't know what the Wolf of Weed Street did behind the scenes, how he got so popular all of a sudden, but his popularity has just nosedived. When he got to 20,000 followers on Twitter, I think in the past 6 months when we actually talked with this reporter, he's gotten 1,000 new followers. And he used to get 100 retweets, now he gets 1 or 2 because people are just, it's sad and they lost so much money. So the reporter continues. I don't argue. Instead, I concentrate on unwinding a few of my positions. And first of all, I never told the reporter to sell everything. I don't want to give you guys instructions on whether to buy or sell. Everybody is different. I said if it were me, I would sell everything because I know the patterns. Shortly afterward, though, Sykes tells me having dinner with the Wolf, whatever the fuck his name is. I suggested it in passing, but Sykes says the Wolf has agreed. It's going to be like the fucking Geneva Conventions, the Wolf says. I don't know what the point of such a summit would be, but I plan on to attend because I see a bloody pummel fest ahead with only one winner. Frankly, I'd put my money, if I had any, on the wolf because he has a history of walking into disasters and coming out smiling. And that reference is earlier in the article because the wolf was just like a unemployed ex-lacrosse player who I guess specialized in disaster relief. So here's the reporter, and I wish he would talked about this more because I spent 3 days with him, teaching him the rules, but he doesn't get into it that deeply. So he says, so I get down to Miami Beach where Sykes lives in a penthouse overlooking the Atlantic. He's 33, 2 years younger than the wolf and somewhat pasty and flabby. He does not look anything like Tom Cruise. He likes to wear a Yukon Huskies t-shirt, sweatpants, and Adidas sandals. I watch him trade, learn more about his method, cover my ears when he bellows with joy because the stock is moving in his direction, gawk at his Rolex and photos of his girlfriend, listen to a continuous stream of palaver about his great teaching skills, ride around with him in his headache orange Lamborghini, got jostled when he backs it into a post, repair costs $8,000. Hear about various trips he's taken to insanely exotic vacation spots, all part of a deluxe lifestyle he documents online in order to drum up business for his various enterprises. Then it's time to meet the wolf for dinner at an overpriced Miami Beach joint called Red the Steakhouse. Along the way, Sykes explains those lifestyle photos. Let's say you meet a homeless guy in the street and offer him the choice of a bottle of Jack Daniels or a green juice kale drink. He's going to take the Jack, right? So what I do is show pictures of my Lamborghini, the mansion I used to have, my trips, my model girlfriend, the life they want, the Jack Daniels. But inside, I teach them the rules. See, I'm tricking the bum. I don't care about this Lamborghini. It makes me nauseous. It makes me look like a jackass, a douchebag, even a fraud. I mean, if it wasn't me, I'd hate me. I could give a shit. My goal is not to be the most popular. It's to create successful motherfucking students. I'm on a fucking mission to take bums off the streets and put them in Armani suits. So who would these bums go with? The wolf of Weed Street and lose 50, 60, 70%? He pauses. So when you give bad advice, I'm going to come down on you like a Hebrew hammer. And this is a great paragraph because, a lot of the criticism around me is because I show off my Lamborghini in the mansion. Yes, I moved out of the mansion, FYI, in case you didn't know. It was way too much to deal with. I just got a penthouse instead. It's much easier. But I show you this lifestyle that you can have with enough study and enough hard work. And when I first started teaching, I never showed off anything, okay? I was purely stocks, purely charts, purely exposés, and guess what? Very few people signed up. There's very little business. And for me, I want to teach the maximum number of people because more people who do this, I find dedicated students. I don't care about the non-dedicated students. You can subscribe to me and watch one video a month, and I don't care about you because you're not putting in the time and effort to learn. But if I teach a ton of people, and out of that big number comes a few dedicated students, then I'm happy. So I do what I have to. I show off the Lamborghini. I made a cool video of the mansion, an MTV Cribs type video. I want to show you the potential rewards of what you can get with hard work. And I'm not ashamed of that. But, I know a lot of critics, they want me to be all pure, like, don't talk about the money, don't show off the lifestyle. As a teacher, I don't have the advantage to be all classy and subtle, okay? I need to be in your face and show you what you can have when you work hard at this. This is not me teaching poetry or philosophy. This is not a game where if you learn to be really good at it, you're going to be broke. If you learn to be a good trader, you're going to get really wealthy and you're going to be able to buy a bunch of cool stuff. And I want that cool stuff to inspire you because there's nothing wrong with wanting a Lamborghini or a mansion or to travel. What's wrong with the world is if you think that's all that matters in life. That's not all that matters in life. But it is very nice, and it's great to be able to take your loved ones. I just took my whole family and my girlfriend's family on a 2-week trip to Italy. That was like $100,000. I love being able to do that. So I really want to be clear with the lifestyle stuff. And, I don't necessarily have the nicest analogies, but it's true. You need to show the rewards before the hard work. Otherwise, people just won't put in the hard work. I mean, I've done this in the past where I put in a little thumbnail on a video and I use a Lamborghini as the thumbnail or a stock chart, and it's the exact same video lesson. And I say, okay, here's a video lesson on this stock. It's like a 45-minute video lesson, blah, blah, blah. Watch it. And the people who see the Lamborghini thumbnail 3 to 4 times the amount of people watch that compared to just the stock chart, even though it's the same exact video. So I'm not going to apologize for that. Anyways, I'll continue reading this article in another video. This is 15 minutes, but I think it's pretty good overall. We'll see. I'll show you the end in a sec. Okay, back to part 2 of this article, starting right here. And on he goes until we arrive at the restaurant where he struggles out of the Lambo's low-slung seat, asks the valet to keep it parked out front, and pads inside. The wolf is already there, all toothy grins, hands outstretched to meet Sykes's, which it does, the last courteous moment of the night. Sykes orders for the table a $499 sampler plate of Wagyu and Kobe beef and a $75 Alaskan king crab dish, among other things. He lets it be known that he'll be picking up the bill. When the beef arrives, he photographs it for his website. I still have to actually take photos, or post those photos. I wanted to wait for the article. The wolf and I look at each other. I'm rooting for him. How could I not? I've still got lots of money in the weed game, so the fate of my nest egg is still tied to the depths of the wolf's financial acumen and his advice to stick with the pot stocks for the longer term. If it ends up he's full of shit, I'm screwed royally and totally, not to mention the embarrassment for having taken investment advice from a Twitter moniker. I've banked on him. Now it's time for him to pay me back, to prove himself worthy of my trust. In other words, go ahead, wolf. Rip Sykes a new one. Let's see some blood dripping from down there. The wolf leads by talking up one of his favorites, Vapor Group Inc., and points out that far from being just a no-revenue penny stock, it had $1.9 million in sales last year. Sykes nearly leaps from the table. The financials don't matter. They can be manipulated easily. They are manipulated. Whether they say they do 1.9 or even 10 million, it's meaningless. Companies like that are just selling hopes and dreams. Every one of them is full of shit. They're the worst companies run by the worst people, and they all deserve to go to zero. True. And this was all audio recorded, so this is literally word for word. I glance over at the wolf, expecting to see his hackles raised, ears pitched forward and erect, Colgate white incisors glistening with drool, ready to pounce. Only he does nothing. He takes another bite of Kobe beef, washes it down with a swig of wine from a bottle he'd purloined from his father-in-law, and lets the moment pass. I smile to myself. Clearly he's working a deeper, subtler angle, setting a trap, just like a wolf. But after a long pause and deep sigh, he says, I guess essentially I'm identifying the best shit out of all the shit, so help me identify the companies that are scams. Sykes leans in, his voice low. Here's a tip, he says, jabbing a fat finger in the air. They're all scams. It doesn't matter if it's the best shit or not. All shit goes down the toilet eventually. You need to understand that, and you don't understand that. You're a fucking glorified newbie. I'm really glad this was audio recorded. Again, the wolf busies himself with the wine. I suddenly realize what's happening. The wolf is in trouble. So far, he hasn't scored a single point against Sykes. Worse, he's asking Sykes for counsel. Away from his Twitter den, the wolf is nothing but a sheep. A few minutes later, he tries to rally by comparing himself semi-seriously to Eminem in the movie 8 Mile. How he's got one shot, one opportunity at greatness, and he's taking it. You know what, Sykes says? You need to be knocked off your fucking high horse. How are you this cocky? Fucking Eminem in 8 Mile? You're more like his fucking drunken mother. It's almost sickening to see. The wolf is being slaughtered in front of my eyes. All he's capable of is an occasional attempt at misdirection, invariably delivered with his winning closer smile. If this was any other place, he tells Sykes, laying it on with a certain amount of oil, I'd like you. I don't have time for fucking friends, Sykes sneers, and I don't need compliments. I have compliments coming out my ass. I want you to change. That's much more important than compliments. And that's why I'm going to give you my DVD worth $500. As a matter of fact, I'm overnighting you the whole fucking set. You need these stat. The wolf leans back from the table, saying, I'll look at them. Of course you will, Sykes snaps, because they're fucking great. Actually, it's kind of fascinating to watch. No matter which way the wolf turns, Sykes has him cornered. Let's be clear, the wolf says. This is going to be a footnote in my history. I'm never going to say, oh wow, I was the wolf of Weed Street. Why don't you think about others for a second instead of yourself, Sykes asks. We don't fucking matter, but those we influence do. Thousands of people depend on this conversation. You have followers, minions. They want to be you. They want to turn a few $1,000s into $600,000, like you did. I did. A lot of them can't be in this beautiful place with you where money is irrelevant. Accept it, motherfucker. You are a face. You're a Twitter handle face. I was never in anyone's living room pushing the buttons for them, the wolf says lamely. Sykes groans, and for a second I think he's going to slap the wolf silly. But that would be overkill, since by now the wolf has gone belly up and rigor mortis is about to set in. I haven't said much, mainly because I'm mesmerized by the spectacle of the Hebrew Hammer smashing the closer. Still, though, I wish I was back in Mexico hanging out with Theo upon our palapa, smoking a bowl and bitching about the lack of surf. That's where the author spends most of his time. Outside the restaurant, Sykes wants a picture taken of him and the wolf together. Let's do it over here, Sykes says. Let's get the Lambo in the shot. Oh my God, says the wolf. Why anyone would take investment advice from a Twitter handle escapes me at the moment. Now looking at these two lunatic internet sensations, I can't imagine what I was thinking. Greed got the best of me, I suppose, and because of that, I'll probably wear state-issued sandpaper diapers in my old age. No nice soapy sponge baths for me. I had a vision. Too bad. Like most pot stocks, it was filled with hot air. And so this was a great, a great article where you basically see what these pot stock investors, and you can read the whole thing, are like. And this is what it comes down to, this picture, because it's really just sad. These pot stock investors truly believed that this was going to be the time where they would get rich. And for a moment, for a few weeks early in 2014, they did. Let me just show you, some of these charts. GRNH is trading at, it's still trading at 10 cents. I thought it'd be much lower. So this is when the Wolf of Weed Street and all of his, people really banked. Let me make this bigger. And you can see here that it's just gone down so gradually ever since. And this is such a classic penny stock pump pattern. If you watch my penny stocking framework DVD, this is a classic 2, 3, 4, and then you have a 5, and then this whole part is the 6, and then you have the long kiss goodnight being a number 7. It's a 7-step pattern. And the wolf looked like a hero right in here for a small amount of time, all in the first few months of 2014, from basically January until March. And this was GRNH. What was another big pot stock? MJNA. When these stocks go from 10 cents to 40 cents, you think they're God. And I was warning about them somewhere around here in March because I had seen these. I have seen these pump charts before. I know how they end. They all end this way. And it's sickening. FRTD, I think they got halted. Yeah. I mean, FRTD went from, look at this, like 15 100ths of a penny. I mean, they did, they went up to 8 cents. Mine, M-I-N-E, a lot of people were saying would come back. And I think I was warning about it somewhere in here in March and April. I didn't catch the exact top. I'm never great at predicting the exact top. I wasn't even sure it was the exact top. I just knew that experience teaches me that you see this kind of stuff again and again. No different than DGLY, which makes these cameras for police-worn body cameras, which is hot right now, or ISNS. Same kind of spike, and then they end up. And this company doesn't even make police body-worn cameras. I mean, they make cameras that analyze license plates. So this was a whole mistaken run-up. VII, and now you have the Ebola plays. VSR, from 2 to 7. iBio is spiking right now from half a penny to 30 to $3 a share. LAKE, went from 8 to 28, and now it's coming down. This is how penny stocks go up, and this is how they come down. And you guys, really have to understand that. So nothing against the wolf, nothing against any of the penny stock people who, trade pot penny stocks, but this is the pattern game. This is pattern recognition. We know how it ends up. And you can't, just think, oh, this time it's different. The stocks are going to keep going. And this is what really pisses me off about the wolf. He just doesn't get it. He booked profits. He took some money out of the market, but a lot of his people didn't because he had such good advertising. I'm sorry for swearing so much in the article, but at least I had a lot of good one-liners. It's just amazing to me that these stocks keep doing this again and again, and people don't realize it. Maybe this is why I'm so watch my DVD, watch my DVD, watch my DVD. It's so important to get educated, and that's how you really beat this game. Understanding the past, learning from past patterns, seeing how this stuff plays out again and again and again, and you can go long or short. That's my lesson for today. How do I close this? Anyways. And it's a great article. Props to the reporter. It's fantastic. You should definitely read it. It's not online yet, but I wanted to just tell you a little bit about it with my own words so that you can see it's not personal. Like, a lot of people hate me. They think I'm like coordinating short attacks. I don't want to coordinate short attacks. I don't want people to hate me. It's just inevitable once you try and give people good information and tell people, like, here's what's probably going to happen. And I'm never 100% sure. Sometimes these stocks go further than you think. But, once you see this kind of pattern where the stock goes up exponentially, what was VPOR was another one, this kind of ridiculous run up. And he's buying on dips. And he's not understanding this, that, this is how these stocks end up. So learn or don't, but I'm going to keep teaching, and as these patterns keep popping up, I'm probably going to be profiting, either on the way up and then on the way down, or more likely just on the way down, because I'm the better short seller. But congrats to anybody who survived the pot stocks and walked away with more money than they started with. I'm sorry to all of you guys who, made bank and then pretty much went bust, believing in, a false prophet, which is what the wolf is. He's just a newbie. And he thinks he's Eminem. He thinks he's like the Jesus. Like, no, you're just a guy who got lucky and didn't realize it. I've seen it year in, year out. So you guys who are watching this video, you have a choice. You can follow the hot newbies, or you can learn from veterans, veteran multimillionaires. This is why I talk about money. It's not because I want to be a dick. It's not because I want to brag, I have all this money and you don't, but because money is our batting average, okay? If you're a baseball player, you have a batting average, you have a slugging percentage. If you're a pitcher, you have an ERA. As a trader, you show how much money you make, okay? I don't understand these non-transparent traders who, they're like, they post a screenshot and they're like, oh, I'm transparent this week. Listen, show your batting average year in, year out. Don't be so full of yourself. Don't be so embarrassed. Don't be so typical and think that, the world is going to judge you. You might be surprised. If you're more transparent, the world might understand you a little bit better, and this whole trading world and penny stock world might not be so corrupt and misunderstood if there was more transparency. I make a lot of mistakes. Watch me on Bravo on Below Deck. I look like a schmuck. If I could, I would have taken the tip back and tipped them as much as they wanted, and then they would have said all wonderful things about me. But instead, I based my tip on a lack of service, and then they all got pissed at me and called me a douchebag on national TV. I don't mind making mistakes on national TV. I don't mind making grammatical mistakes. I'm human. All I can do is show you what I do right and what I do wrong. I was wrong on that TV show, okay? I was wrong. I didn't think about the consequences. I know a lot of people are upset. I'm sorry. But I was not wrong on these pumps, and I probably should have come down harsher on these people, because then they might have realized. But if you try and be nice and you say, hey, you know what, I think this might be a pump and dump pattern, I think this stock might come down, no one's really going to pay attention, because they're just like, yeah, who's this nice guy? I don't want to listen to a nice guy. I tried to come down like really hard because I wanted to warn people, because I'm like, I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. I've seen this pattern again and again and again. I've seen it play out so many times. And it pisses me off that every single time, everyone goes down with the ship. Sponge Tech was a pump that I found. Are they still even traded? SPNG? No, I guess not. SPNGD? Was it SPNGE? I don't know. It was a pump and dump, same kind of thing when it went from so little to so much. And they hired promoters and they had billions of shares. And I was warning people. And a lot of people thought that I was like trying to coordinate a short attack. I don't coordinate anything, okay? People hate me. Short sellers hate me because I tell people, I'm shorting. And some short sellers send me emails and they're like, Tim, I know you've exposed a lot of scams, but why do you have to say that you're shorting? VOIL, I got all these emails from short sellers because I was shorting it in here at 190-ish and 2-ish. And they're like, Tim, you know that it's going to crash eventually. Why do you have to tell people that you're short? Like, you're just going to get the promoters to squeeze us. Well, guess what, guys? That's what full transparency is all about. Let the promoters try and squeeze me. During my Vegas conferences here, a trader tried to squeeze me, and he turned out to be dead wrong, thus reinforcing the patterns. I'm going to teach. I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to show you these patterns for better or worse. Trade against me, trade with me, don't trade, whatever. I'm here to teach in real time. I only use trading to teach. I don't even have to trade if I don't want to. I'm rich enough. But I love trading. I love teaching. and I hope you learn my patterns. Thank you.